Parents aren't supposed to bury their children. And I realize how even more so precious life is.
It's amazing all the bad places the mind can go to in that kind of situation. Gary was born September 4th, 1988.
He was a welcome surprise. We were told we couldn't have children, and for 5 years we weren't sure that that was going to happen.
So he was truly a blessing.
Gary was such an easygoing kid. From the time he was born, he just happy, even-keeled personality, didn't get upset about things, very polite and respectful and very personable, just thriving in life, wanting to just learn everything.
Gary was a very gentle boy, a very sweet kid, and people who knew him, they would always comment about his caring type nature that he had. He was a very, very smart boy. I think he got that from his mom. And, but he was very caring about his brother and sister, and also about his friends. He was always looking out for other people. Gary was 5 years older than his sister Emily, and 7 years older than Noah. Gary really loved baseball, and he taught me how to really love the game.
Growing up, I looked up to my brother a lot. He was involved in sports, and I really liked playing sports. Like, I got a knack for baseball and football at a young age. First 2 or 3 years I played baseball, I threw with my left hand because my older brother was left-handed, and I wanted to be like him.
Gary had always been a goal setter and always made plans, and for him, he was going to be a general manager of a professional baseball team. When he filled out his college board information on what he was looking for, he got a lot of recruiting information. Writer was one of them.
And when he found out that they had a Division I baseball team, he and I flew out there and he did a tryout. And he had a really good curveball. And his curve was just on that day. It was rolling off the table. And the pitching coach fell in love with him. And so that was it. You know, the hook was in. He was approached to join Phi Kappa Tau, I think around January.
He wasn't going to be part of the Greek system. He was actually going to be an RA. So I was surprised when he called to talk about it and say that he had gotten these bids and he'd looked into them and he had chosen this one fraternity. And when he told me, I said, well, why are you choosing this fraternity? And he said, well, it stands for leadership. And it'll be good for my resume and for networking and being career-minded and, you know, goal-oriented. He was doing everything to set himself up for the future.
He texted his girlfriend that he just had one more thing to do, and that he was really dreading having to do it. And that was his Big Little Night. Big Little Night is the deadliest night of any fraternity. See, they took him down in a basement. He's blindfolded. They did a ritual where they dipped something in water, recite some words. But then what happened was there was what's called the family drink. And the family drink is different for everybody. It depends on who your big brother is. So for someone it might be Jack Daniels. For Gary, his big brother's family drink, it was citron vodka. And they had a fifth of it, and he and his big brother Vinny were supposed to drink it together. Apparently, Vinny's excuse was he had a test the next day. So he took a shot or two and then left the bottle. Gary was left that he had to finish the rest of the bottle. Gary was intoxicated beyond comprehension by that point. He fell down. Somehow they got him from the basement and they got him up 2 flights of stairs to a room. They laid him down on a futon and they backpacked him. Backpacking is something where they put a backpack on you so you can't roll over on your back and then vomit and then choke to death on your own vomit. They backpacked him, stuck him on a futon, and they basically left him there to die. He started gurgling, and there was people there who heard it, and they said, you know, this guy's in trouble, we need to do something. The brothers of the fraternity were like, no, 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 that's okay, we got this handled, he's okay. And it went on a little bit longer, and then somebody noticed that his lips were blue. So then by then, fraternity members also started panicking when they realized he wasn't breathing. Someone finally called the paramedics. By the time they came out there, they were able to get him to start breathing again, but the medical report said that his brain had been deprived of oxygen for more than 5 minutes. About 2 o'clock in the morning, I could hear a banging in the front of the house. I went to the front door and the police were out. 5 or 6 policemen in my front yard. And I opened up the door and I said, what's going on? They said, do you know a David DeVercelly? I said, nope, sure don't. Why? And then one of them talked to the other one. He goes, a Gary DeVercelly. I said, yeah, it's my son. We have a phone number for you to call. Why, what happened? We don't know. We just have a number for you.
Gary came back and you know, we're thinking, what is this? What's going on? And he made the call. He said that he was in serious condition. He had a 50-50 chance of making it, and we needed to get there. We said, okay.
And then we go in to see Gary, and then it just, you know, the news just gets worse and worse.
His face was swollen because of all the hemorrhaging on the brain. He was in a C-collar, had tubes all in him, and of course he was on life support. I don't think there's anything that you can do to prepare for that, and something no parent should have to see.
We're in the room with Gary, and at one point, you know, we'd been with him, and Noah looks at me, he goes, Dad, so when are they going to take Gary into the operating room and fix him? And I said, no, they're not going to take him in the operating room and fix him. And he said, why not? And I said, because they can't. Gary's not going to make it. He's going to die here. And Noah, he looked crushed. His shoulders slumped. And he got up and he walked over and he laid on his brother and cried. This is the most terrible thing I ever saw. It breaks my heart every time I think of it.
So we stayed with Gary. We wanted to be there when they took him off the ventilator. We just sat and talked to him and told him it was okay to follow the light and go be with Jesus, and we'd be with him someday soon. And then watching the silly monitor and waiting for it to stop. It was awful. No parent should have to do that. Not for something that shouldn't be.
As an 11-year-old kid looking over and seeing your mom and your dad and your sister just crying for an hour and a half, 2 hours is not a good feeling.
We were there with them right through the end.
The family that I have is not the family I would have had if Gary hadn't been killed.
The world looked different. Everything, it was like everything had this cast of gray to it now, this kind of this darkness to it, it felt like. Nothing seemed pleasant. Everything seemed dark and almost sinister. Everything seemed tinged in a negative way.
Emily and Noah and their lives, you know, they've been changed forever. And they're great kids and they're amazing young adults. But it's not the way they would be.
It was DeVercelly table of 5. And, but now that Gary's gone, we're still a table of 5. But it's just, you know, we have an empty chair. And we all know that chair is empty. You don't ever forget it, that it's empty.
When I'm at the cemetery, there's Cherry Park's right next door with the baseball field, and during regular times, especially on the weekends and stuff, you can hear the crack of the bat and everything else going on. And Gary loved the ball fields. You know, that makes me happy, hearing that.